Mind-blowing twists and toxic parental drama collide as I reveal my journey from deceit to a $750,000 escape, fighting to reclaim love and family. I still remember the day everything shifted. I was scrolling through Facebook, lost in my usual evening routine after a long day at work, when a conversation caught my attention. At first, I thought it was just another harmless chat, but as I read the messages, my heart began to pound harder with each word. There, hidden among notifications, was a message from Lucas, a name I had known for years, not as a friend, but as someone who was family. The words were explicit, suggestive, and they bore Emma's name all over them. In that moment, time seemed to slow down. I couldn't believe what I was reading. Lucas, my wife's cousin, had sent her messages that were anything but innocent. I felt a deep, creeping suspicion mixing with shock and disbelief. I stared at the screen, my mind racing as I tried to make sense of the betrayal. Could it be real? Had I been living a lie all these years? When Emma returned home that night, the tension in the air was palpable before she even stepped through the door. I wasn't sure how to start the conversation, and the silence between us was deafening. I mustered every ounce of courage to ask her about the messages I had seen. Her eyes widened in surprise, and for a long, agonizing moment, she said nothing at all. Finally, with a voice that was barely above a whisper, she denied everything. She explained that she didn't know how to say no, that Lucas had a way of pushing her boundaries that left her confused and trapped in the situation. I felt a mixture of anger, hurt, and utter disbelief. How could the person I trusted the most be involved in something so reckless? My mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. On one hand, I wanted to scream, to demand the truth from her, and on the other, I was overcome with sorrow and regret over the crumbling foundation of our marriage. As I lay in bed that night, replaying every detail of the conversation in my head, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. Every word, every subtle nuance in her tone, and every piece of the conversation with Lucas felt like shards of broken trust scattered around me. I questioned everything: our past, her intentions, and even my own judgment. The revelation was a devastating blow, and yet I couldn't help but wonder if there was more to the story than what met the eye. In the days that followed, I found myself haunted by memories of our seemingly perfect life together. The smiles, the shared dreams, the small, everyday moments all seemed tainted by the shadow of doubt. I spent countless hours reflecting on our conversations and the way Emma's eyes had darted away when I mentioned the texts. There was a part of me that clung desperately to the hope that it was all just a misunderstanding, that perhaps I had misinterpreted something entirely benign. But deep down, I knew the words were too explicit to ignore. Now, I'm left with more questions than answers. I'm struggling to understand how things spiraled into this situation. Was it loneliness? Was it the allure of forbidden attention? Or was it something more complex? Something I couldn't even begin to fathom? Each thought only deepened my sense of isolation and confusion. I felt alone, trapped in a web of suspicions and half-truths that I wasn't sure I could ever untangle. This is just the beginning of my journey into the unknown. A journey that I never imagined I would have to take. I'm on the precipice of uncovering secrets that I'm not sure I'm ready for, yet I know that I must press forward. The truth is out there, hidden behind layers of deceit and half-hearted denials. And as I take these first trembling steps, I'm left to wonder, how do you rebuild trust when the very foundation of your life seems to be crumbling beneath you? For now, all I can do is face each day with a mix of determination and dread, hoping that the answers will eventually come to light, even if they shatter the remnants of what I once believed to be our perfect life. After that night, I found myself obsessively scrolling through old messages and hidden chats, desperate to uncover the full extent of the betrayal. What I discovered shattered everything I thought I knew about my marriage. The evidence was irrefutable. Emma and Lucas had been entwined in a secret affair for over 15 years. Each message I read was like a punch to the gut, a reminder that the life I believed in was built on years of deceit. It wasn't a momentary lapse or a fleeting mistake. It was a carefully concealed, long-term betrayal. As I sifted through the digital breadcrumbs, I began to understand the twisted dynamic between Emma and Lucas. It turned out that Lucas wasn't just a simple adulterer. He led a double life in every sense of the word. He was openly bisexual, and his messages revealed that he casually dated random men, sharing his exploits with Emma as if bragging about his conquests. He talked about his nights out, his clandestine rendezvous, and the thrill of living on the edge, all with a carefree candor that was both shocking and infuriating. Emma, who I had always believed to be a devoted wife, seemed to have been complicit, caught in a web of desire and manipulation that spanned over a decade and a half. The more I uncovered, the heavier the burden of betrayal became. I was overwhelmed by a mix of rage, disbelief, and an aching loneliness that stemmed from realizing how deeply my life had been infiltrated by secrets. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of lies, each message a testament to a relationship that I had never known existed. It wasn't just about Emma cheating on me. It was about the profound deception that had been carefully orchestrated behind closed doors for years. In a moment of desperate clarity, I decided that this deception could not go unchallenged. I knew someone who might share my outrage and help expose the truth. Sarah, Lucas' wife. Reaching out to her was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I felt I had no other option. I told her everything. The hidden messages, the explicit details of the affair, and the disturbing revelation of how long this had been going on. I laid it all out, bearing the raw, painful truth that had haunted me for so long. Sarah listened in silence, her expression shifting from shock to a resolute determination that I hadn't expected. I could see the betrayal mirrored in her eyes as she processed the magnitude of what I was telling her. Without missing a beat, she made a decision that would change everything. In a fit of righteous indignation, Sarah took to social media and exposed the entire sordid affair. Within hours, our once-hidden scandal exploded across the internet. Every detail, from the 15-year-long betrayal to Lucas' audacious lifestyle, was laid bare for the world to see. The fallout was immediate and relentless. Friends, family, and even strangers began weighing in, their comments and reactions a mix of outrage, disbelief, and even schadenfreude. The social media storm was a double-edged sword. While part of me felt vindicated by the public revelation of the truth, I was also horrified at the collateral damage it caused. Lives were being upended, reputations tarnished, and the once private sins of a few had become a public spectacle. In the midst of the chaos, I was forced to confront a painful reality. The person I thought I knew had been living a lie for far too long. The more I uncovered, the more I realized that nothing was as it seemed. Every lie, every secret conversation, and every carefully hidden message contributed to the unraveling of a life built on deception. And as I sat there, grappling with the enormity of it all, I couldn't help but wonder if the truth, no matter how painful, was the only way to start piecing together the fragments of my shattered existence. Now, as I try to come to terms with this revelation, I am left questioning the very nature of trust and love. The foundation of my world has been upended, and in its place stands a legacy of betrayal that I never imagined possible. Yet, even in the midst of this storm of chaos and heartbreak, I cling to the hope that exposing the truth might be the first step towards rebuilding something real, whatever that may look like from here on out. After the fallout exploded online, I knew I had to reclaim my life, no matter how broken it was. I filed for divorce from Emma, and every step of the legal process felt like peeling away layers of lies I'd spent years clinging to. The court documents, the long nights of endless paperwork, and the cold formalities were all a harsh reminder that my marriage had never been built on the foundation of love I had once believed in. Instead, it had been nothing more than a cover, a flimsy facade to conceal Emma's secret, illicit connection with Lucas. At the same time, I discovered that Sarah, Lucas's wife, was embarking on a similar painful journey. The public humiliation and the betrayals were too much for her to bear, and she made the brave decision to divorce Lucas. I wasn't sure how I'd ever recover from the shock and humiliation of my own broken marriage, but when I saw Sarah standing strong amidst her own chaos, something inside me stirred. A spark of hope, a shared determination to rebuild our lives. In the early days after we both started the divorce proceedings, we found ourselves drawn together. We would meet quietly in cafes or take long walks in the evenings, away from prying eyes and the constant barrage of social media updates. In those moments, we bared our souls. Sarah's voice trembled as she recounted her loneliness and betrayal, and I found myself opening up about the crushing realization that Emma had never truly loved me. The more we talked, the more it became clear that we weren't just two victims of an unforgivable deceit. We were kindred spirits, seeking solace in one another amidst the ruins of shattered trust. Keeping our budding connection a secret wasn't easy. We both knew that the public eye was still scouring every corner of our recent scandal, and we didn't want to add another chapter to the spectacle. Yet, behind closed doors, our clandestine meetings were filled with laughter, shared dreams, and a tentative promise of healing. With every secret coffee date and whispered conversation, I began to see that the betrayal I had once thought was the end of everything might, in fact, be the beginning of something genuine. It was in those quiet, vulnerable moments that I came to a painful yet liberating conclusion. Emma had never loved me. Our entire marriage, the life I had invested so much in, was nothing more than a meticulously maintained charade, a cover for her affair with Lucas. That realization stung bitterly, but it also unshackled me from the weight of false hope. I began to understand that sometimes, when one door slams shut with the force of betrayal, it clears the way for a new, unexpected path. As Sarah and I continued to support each other through the mire of divorce court and public scorn, our connection deepened. It wasn't just that we were healing from similar wounds. It was as though every painful conversation, every shared tear, was stitching together a new tapestry of trust and compassion. The more I listened to Sarah speak about her own struggle with isolation and disillusionment, the more I saw that we were both fighting to reclaim our identities from the ruins of a past filled with deceit. Our relationship, though still hidden from the world, gradually evolved from a mutual understanding into something more intimate. There was an unspoken promise in the way she reached out to squeeze my hand during a particularly rough day in court, or how she managed a gentle smile when I was overwhelmed by memories of better times. In her, I found not only empathy but a genuine warmth that made me believe again in the possibility of love. Real love, built on honesty and shared resilience. We deliberately chose to keep our relationship under wraps at first. The idea of adding our personal story to the already rampant social media storm was too risky, and both of us craved a little privacy as we navigated these uncharted waters. So, we created a sanctuary in our secret rendezvous, a space where we could momentarily forget the public disgrace and focus on rebuilding our shattered selves. It wasn't long before I realized that every whispered word and every supportive embrace was a small step toward mending the deep cuts left by betrayal. In the aftermath of everything, as I stood amidst the ruins of what I once believed to be a loving marriage, I began to see the bittersweet truth. Sometimes you have to lose everything you thought you had in order to find something more genuine. Emma's indifference and calculated deception had been the disguise for a relationship that was never meant for me, and though it hurt more than I ever imagined, it also set me free. Free to see that love could come unexpectedly, in the form of a person who understood my pain, who shared in the process of healing, and who dared to dream of a future where trust wasn't just a word but a promise. Now, as Sarah and I continue to navigate the complexities of our new lives, I feel a cautious optimism that I haven't felt in years. We're learning to trust again, to let our guard down in a world that had taught us to expect nothing but betrayal. Our secret moments together remind me that even in the darkest times, human connection can illuminate the path forward. Though the scars of our past will forever be etched in our hearts, they no longer define us. They serve as a reminder that sometimes, breaking free from the lies is the only way to discover the truth about who we are and what we truly deserve. The days following our secret beginnings were already heavy with emotional burdens when news arrived that none of us could have predicted. One chilly evening, as I was returning from a routine visit to the courthouse, I received a phone call that shook me to my core. The hospital was calling about Lucas. I could barely grasp the words as I learned that he had attempted to take his own life, ingesting over 500 milliliters of antifreeze in a desperate bid to escape the tangled web of his own making. The hospital corridors, with their harsh fluorescent lights and the ceaseless murmur of anxious voices, became the setting of a grim vigil. I remember standing there, feeling utterly helpless, as the doctors scrambled to stabilize him. Despite every effort, the antifreeze had done its irreversible damage, and Lucas was left with severe brain injury. For 9 long, agonizing days, he remained in a coma-like state, each moment stretching out as if it were a lifetime of regrets and unspoken words. Then, almost as if fate had finally decided to close the final chapter on a dark, tumultuous saga, Lucas slipped away. In the aftermath of his death, the emotional fallout did not remain confined to his own shattered life. His parents, who had once been sympathetic to Sarah's plight, soon turned their grief into bitter resentment. Their mourning quickly mutated into an accusatory fury, and they began to place the blame squarely on Sarah's shoulders. To them, her secret relationship with Lucas was not just a hidden affair. It was the catalyst that had driven him to such a desperate act. I couldn't help but feel a sense of disquiet at the speed with which their support had turned to scorn. In their eyes, every moment of deception and every secret rendezvous was now a piece of evidence of her culpability. Witnessing this, I felt an overwhelming sense of injustice. Here we were, both Sarah and I, already reeling from the shattering betrayal of our own lives, now caught in a vicious cycle of blame that threatened to erode what little solace we had managed to find. I had come to terms with the fact that my marriage with Emma was nothing more than an elaborate facade, one carefully constructed to hide her true feelings and clandestine involvement with Lucas. But seeing Lucas's parents direct their anguish at Sarah made the wounds even deeper. Their grief was raw and uncontrollable, but it was also misdirected, fueling a fire of accusation that neither of us deserved. I found myself standing at a crossroads of conflicting emotions. Part of me felt a muted relief that Lucas, with all his manipulations and betrayals, had finally met his end, while another part mourned the tragedy of a man who had clearly been fighting his own demons. His death was not a simple conclusion, but rather the catastrophic end of years of entangled lies and hidden desires. A stark reminder that the consequences of our actions, no matter how well hidden, eventually catch up with us. In the quiet moments after the storm of media outrage and family accusations, I would sit alone, grappling with the weight of it all. Lucas's final act, tragic and irreversible, underscored the fragility of a life steeped in deceit. I often wondered about the man behind the betrayal, a man who, despite his audacity and his twisted charm, was ultimately a victim of his own inner turmoil. His desperate act, followed by 9 days of hopeless waiting in a hospital bed, left an indelible mark on all of us. As Sarah and I navigated this new chapter, the bitterness in Lucas's parents' eyes and their harsh words lingered like an unwanted echo. Their anger was a constant reminder that in the wake of such deep-rooted betrayal, healing was a slow, painful process. We had both been drawn into a narrative far larger than our personal heartbreak, and now we found ourselves fighting not just to rebuild our lives, but also to shield ourselves from the relentless judgment of those who refused to see the bigger picture. Every day since then has been a struggle to reconcile the remnants of past trust with the harsh realities of the present. The hospital's cold sterility, the weight of unanswered questions, and the echoing blame from Lucas's grieving parents all serve as constant reminders that sometimes, the end of one chapter only marks the beginning of another painful journey. Amid the chaos and the accusations, I continue to search for a semblance of peace. A quiet hope that, in time, we might all learn to forgive, to let go of the burdens of misplaced blame, and to find a way forward in a world that has shown us nothing but the cost of deception and despair. After Lucas's tragic death and the ensuing chaos, Sarah and I knew that we couldn't let the ghosts of our old lives dictate our future. With heavy hearts but determined spirits, we decided to leave behind the state where every corner reminded us of betrayal and heartache. We packed up our few belongings, said our silent goodbyes to a past filled with shattered dreams, and moved to a new state, a blank canvas where we could begin to paint a future of our own design. In our new home, amidst unfamiliar streets and the promise of anonymity, I finally allowed myself to piece together the remnants of my shattered identity. As I began to sort through the painful memories, I stumbled upon more truths that cut even deeper than I had imagined. Hidden in old emails and forgotten digital messages was evidence that Emma's deceptions went far beyond her affair with Lucas. I learned that throughout our marriage, she had been entangled in 3 additional affairs. Each revelation was like a new incision, a fresh reminder that the woman I had once trusted had not only deceived me once, but had woven a web of lies that stretched throughout our entire relationship. The weight of this discovery was almost too much to bear. It wasn't just the betrayal of a single relationship. It was the realization that my entire marriage had been nothing more than a carefully constructed facade. Emma's infidelities, multiple and relentless, shattered the illusions I had clung to for so long. The depth of her deceit left me questioning every memory, every shared moment that I had once believed was built on love and trust. In that painful process of uncovering the truth, I found a bitter solace, knowing that I was not responsible for the many lives she had manipulated, and that I deserved a life far removed from the web of her lies. Even as I grappled with the revelations about Emma, another profound discovery about Sarah began to unfold. Over time, through quiet conversations and shared confidences in the soft light of our new mornings, I learned about the ways in which her life had been stifled long before we met. It turned out that for years, Sarah had been held back by the controlling presence of Lucas. His dominance extended beyond the boundaries of their failed marriage. It had seeped into every aspect of her life, including her education. I discovered that Sarah had never had the chance to pursue higher education, not because she lacked ambition or talent, but because Lucas had made decisions for her, deliberately keeping her from exploring her full potential. The realization that she had been robbed of opportunities weighed heavily on both of us. Determined not to let the past define her any longer, Sarah made a bold decision. With a quiet resolve that belied the pain of her history, she enrolled in college courses and began studying with a passion that was both inspiring and transformative. Watching her dive into her studies, reclaiming the parts of herself that had been suppressed for so long, filled me with a sense of hope I hadn't dared to feel in years. Her courage in the face of adversity was a living testament to the strength of the human spirit, a reminder that even after enduring deep betrayal, it was possible to forge a new path and pursue dreams once thought unattainable. Our new beginning was more than just a change of scenery. It was a complete reinvention of our lives. Every day, as we navigated the routines of our fresh start, from early morning walks in unfamiliar neighborhoods to long, heartfelt conversations about our hopes for the future, we began to build a sanctuary of trust and mutual support. The wounds left by Emma's lies and the long shadow of Lucas's control were still there, lingering like scars on our souls, but they were slowly being replaced by something new. The promise of growth, the spark of independence, and the possibility of genuine happiness. In the quiet moments when I watched Sarah pore over her textbooks late into the night or saw her eyes light up with the thrill of a new discovery, I realized that our journey was just beginning. We were no longer defined by the betrayals and manipulations that had once controlled our lives. Instead, we were learning to redefine ourselves on our own terms. The fresh start in a new state was our chance to rewrite our stories, to let go of the ghosts of our past, and to build a future based on truth, resilience, and the rediscovery of our own potential. Every sunrise in our new home felt like a promise that the pain of yesterday would not dictate the possibilities of tomorrow. As we moved forward together, hand in hand, we embraced the freedom to be who we truly were, unburdened by the lies that had once held us captive. In our shared pursuit of knowledge, in our daily battles against the lingering shadows of deceit, we found a strength that was both unexpected and empowering. Our new beginning was not just an escape from the past. It was a declaration that we were ready to live, to learn, and to love again on our own terms. I tried so hard to be there for Austin, my little 7-year-old son who had come into my life when I needed him most. I cherished every moment with him, every laugh and every small triumph, believing that our bond could weather any storm. But Emma, determined to maintain her control even after everything that had happened, made it clear that I wasn't welcome in his life. Every time I reached out, every attempt to share a moment of fatherhood with him, I was met with cold refusals and harsh reminders that my presence would only keep me tied to her. The more I fought to be part of his life, the more I realized that trying to remain his father meant clinging to a past that was poisoning my future. A past filled with Emma's manipulations and betrayals. It broke my heart to watch him drift further away, a constant reminder of what our marriage had truly been. a facade built on lies. I eventually understood that if I was to heal and build something genuine with Sarah, I had to let go of the ties that bound me to Emma and all the pain she carried. Walking away from Austin was the most agonizing decision I've ever made. It felt like I was surrendering a piece of my soul. Yet I knew that holding on to him meant being forever entangled in the life I was desperately trying to escape. As if life hadn't already been cruel enough, a spark of hope emerged in the midst of all this loss. Sarah and I discovered that we were expecting our first child together, a tangible sign that even after the darkest betrayals, there could be new beginnings. The news was bittersweet. While it filled our hearts with joy and a renewed sense of purpose, it also came with a heavy dose of worry. We both harbored fears about potential genetic problems, a lingering anxiety born from the stress and chaos of our tumultuous pasts. Night after night, we sat together, our hands clasped tightly, as we awaited the results of a battery of tests that would determine whether our baby was healthy. The waiting was nerve-wracking, every minute stretching out with the weight of our shared hopes and fears. And then, finally, the news came: our baby was healthy. The relief was overwhelming, a powerful counterpoint to all the pain and loss we had endured. That moment, when we learned that our child was free from the shadows of our past, felt like the first genuine promise of a future that wasn't defined by betrayal and broken bonds. Now, as we prepare for the arrival of our little one, every day is a mix of cautious optimism and tender reflection. Sarah's belly grows, a living testament to the resilience of hope, and I find myself both haunted by the absence of Austin and inspired by the promise of new life. I still grapple with the sorrow of having to step back from the life I once knew, a life where I could have been a constant, loving presence for a child who needed me. But I also recognize that in order to build a future based on trust and genuine love, some painful sacrifices are unavoidable. In the quiet moments, when the world seems to hold its breath in anticipation of what's to come, I allow myself to feel every emotion. The regret of lost time with Austin, the fear of lingering genetic shadows, and the overwhelming joy of expecting a new beginning. I know that letting go of one part of my past doesn't mean I love less. It means I'm making room for something healthier, something real. As Sarah and I set up a cozy space for our soon-to-be-born child, I cling to the belief that life, however fractured it may be, always offers the possibility of redemption and growth. Every day, as I watch Sarah study late into the night, determined to reclaim the parts of herself that were once stifled, I am reminded that hope is a powerful force. Our journey has been marred by betrayal and loss, but it is also marked by our unwavering commitment to forge a better future. With each passing day, the pain of separation and the weight of past mistakes slowly give way to the promise of new beginnings. I may have had to let go of one part of my family to move forward, but in doing so, I'm carving out a space for love that is honest, nurturing, and unburdened by the ghosts of yesterday. As we stand on the precipice of this new chapter, I find solace in the simple truth that every ending is just a prelude to a new beginning. The echoes of my past will always be there, a reminder of the cost of betrayal and the price of letting go. But now, with Sarah's hand in mine and the promise of our child lighting the way, I am ready to embrace the future. One where hope, healing, and love triumph over the scars that once defined us. Sometimes, it feels almost surreal, like I'm living in a reality I never dared to imagine. But here we are, Sarah and I, starting a new chapter in a big house that cost us $750,000. When I first stepped through the front door, the open spaces and the gentle light filtering through the enormous windows made me believe that we were finally leaving behind the suffocating shadows of our past. This house isn't just a structure. It's our sanctuary, a tangible promise that life can be rebuilt after every devastating betrayal and every bitter loss. Our journey to this moment has been anything but smooth. In the early days, even as we tried to forge a new life away from the chaos of our previous existence, both Sarah and I recognized that the wounds inflicted by toxic relationships wouldn't simply vanish overnight. We agreed that to truly move forward, we needed to face the past head-on. So we started therapy. At first, each session was like reopening a long-sealed wound. We talked about the betrayal that had unraveled my entire marriage, the manipulative control that had shadowed Sarah's life for so long, and the unbearable grief of watching the pieces of our former lives scatter into the void. I remember one session vividly. My therapist, with a calm and steady voice, urged me to confront the painful memories, the deceit of Emma, the manipulative chaos of Lucas, and the heart-wrenching separation from Austin. As I recounted the cascade of betrayals, I felt a strange lightness seep into the darkness of my memory. It was as if each word I uttered was chiseling away at the heavy stone of regret and sorrow that had weighed me down for so long. That day, I realized that while I could never fully erase the past, I could reshape my future by not allowing those memories to dictate who I was. Sarah, too, has made incredible strides. The woman who once had her life dictated by another has slowly reclaimed her independence. Her determination to pursue the education and self-improvement opportunities that were so ruthlessly stolen from her by Lucas has been nothing short of inspiring. In our sessions, she talked about learning to trust her own voice, to finally believe in her worth. Watching her transform, little by little, has filled me with hope. Every milestone she reaches is a victory not just for her, but for both of us. A testament to the strength we discovered together in the aftermath of our shared torment. Living in this new house has allowed us to rewrite our daily routines, to fill every room with laughter and light. I find myself in awe on quiet mornings, sipping coffee by the window, and realizing that the gentle hum of life here is a stark contrast to the relentless echo of my past. Each corner of our home tells a story of resilience. The sunlit living room where we plan our future, the cozy study where Sarah pores over her textbooks and rediscovers her passion for learning, and even the backyard, which now bursts with the promise of new beginnings. In every brick and beam, I see the reflection of a future free from the manipulation, deceit, and heartache that once ruled our lives. Yet, even as the physical surroundings shift to embody our fresh start, it's the internal transformation that feels most profound. I've finally come to understand that love, true unconditional love, was always possible, even if I had to walk a painful path to find it. For the first time in years, I feel truly cherished. The emptiness that had haunted me has been gradually replaced by a sense of belonging and warmth that emanates from both Sarah and the life we are building together. Gone are the days when I measured my worth through the lens of betrayal and loss. Now, every day, I am rediscovering my value through the simple act of being present, being honest, and being open to the possibilities of tomorrow. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, I sat on our spacious front porch with Sarah resting her head on my shoulder. In that quiet, intimate moment, the past seemed to dissolve into the twilight. We talked softly about our dreams. A future where our child would grow up knowing nothing of the turmoil that once defined our lives, where every laugh and every shared secret would be a step further away from the ghosts of our history. The thought filled me with a profound sense of peace and anticipation. Of course, the scars of yesterday haven't vanished entirely. There are still moments when memories of betrayal and control resurface, but now I see them for what they are. Reminders of how far we've come and proof that our survival was never in question. Every challenge we overcame, every tear shed during therapy, every hard-fought breakthrough has culminated in this moment of genuine happiness. A happiness that, while fragile, is real and worth protecting. Sarah and I continue to nurture our relationship with the care it deserves. We set aside time for long walks, heart-to-heart conversations, and even quiet evenings when words aren't necessary because our eyes and gentle touches speak volumes. Therapy remains a part of our routine, not as a reminder of our pain, but as an ongoing investment in our well-being. It helps us navigate the complexities of our inner worlds, ensuring that the old patterns of mistrust and despair never find a foothold in our new lives. Today, as I reflect on everything that has happened, from the discovery of Emma's endless betrayals to the chaotic aftermath of Lucas's tragic end, I realize that every twist and turn, no matter how painful, led me to this moment of clarity. The journey was littered with heartbreak, and yet, each fragment of the past taught me a lesson about resilience and the boundless capacity for renewal. I've learned that sometimes the most painful endings pave the way for the most promising beginnings. Now, standing in the soft glow of our future, I know that I am no longer defined by the darkness of deceit or the weight of betrayal. In our big house, with its inviting rooms and the promise of endless possibilities, I found a new sense of identity. I finally feel loved, not by someone who manipulated or controlled, but by someone who stands beside me as an equal partner in the dance of life. Together, Sarah and I are building a future that honors our past yet remains unshackled by it. This is our happy ending, a testament to the strength of the human spirit, the healing power of genuine love, and the unwavering belief that every ending is merely the start of a new chapter. As I close my eyes tonight, listening to the soothing sounds of our home settling into peace, I hold onto the promise that tomorrow will be brighter, freer, and filled with hope. And with Sarah's hand in mine, I step confidently into that future, leaving behind the shadows of yesterday and embracing the radiant light of a life reborn.